I think we're ready to start this thing. Here we go, folks. All right, cool. So, hey, look, I want to thank everybody who's joining tonight. I know we've got a few more people jumping on later on, but the replays of these live casts, as we call them sometimes, the live recording of the podcast, the replays are just as good. Like I always say with this thing, man, this is designed for you to listen to later on, maybe even on the weekend. You might be cleaning out stuff in your garage, and you're just going to get another slice of the motorcycle world, on these little live casts. I want to thank Mick, the motorcycle Mick, of course, for joining today. What's happening, buddy?
Oh, it's going good, man. Just make sure everyone hits that thumbs up in the side chat. There's 20 people watching and only 6.
Yeah, all right, cool. Yeah, I think people, sometimes when they see you on screen, Mick, they just get hypnotized by your beard and your, your screen presence, and they forget to hit those thumbs up. And I want to introduce Mr. Brandon Keene. Brandon, how are you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, Tom. This is an honor. I'm excited.
Absolutely, man. You know what? It's an honor to have you with us today. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to keep an eye on the side chat. I'm going to read through some of those. We do a couple of roll calls during the show. At the same time, we'll just be talking about maybe some of your motorcycle stories, some roadshow stories. And then I'm going to pull up some of your social media, look at some of your bikes and stuff. And then we'll kind of, talk about that a little bit. We'll adjustment on the screen here. There we go. All right, cool. So first, let me see who is out here in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and run down a few names here that I'm seeing up here. Some of the usuals. We've got Mr. Patty Hattie, Patrick Hattrick, Fletch Dyna. We have Grinding Gears, ACW Moto. Who else? Larry Blevins was busting my chops earlier. Thank you for being here. Anonymous Biker USA, Mr. Head MP. Don't know who that is. Thanks for being here. Mystery Macaroni, been around a long time. Thank you, buddy. Dad and Mad from the UK. We've got Outback Outlaw all the way from Australia, mate. Very cool. Nice. Who else? JC Cycles, Prairie Boy, and I probably missed a few others. Bandera HD. Okay. Bandera HD. Are you from Bandera, Texas? I'll be out that way this Saturday. I know the Litas are having an event out there in Bandera, Texas called the Shindig. So I'm looking forward to going over there and supporting them. Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and get it started, man. As always, just a kickback little conversation. Brandon, the first time I met you, you were showcasing one of your bikes at the Lone Star Rally in Houston over there, Galveston, Texas, which is close by Houston. Had you displayed your bikes there before? And the second question is, how did you get involved with the Lone Star Rally?
Never been there before. We just went down for the first time this year. It was a huge honor to be invited and to take our bike there and show it and compete with all the other guys and meeting all the other bike builders they put us all up in one great big beach house. So that was a really good time. Just really got to know everybody, and it was super great people, all of them. I think I had my bike out in Sturgis at Michael Lichter's Motorcycle as Art exhibit, and met Chris and Heather from Cycle Stores. So that's kind of led to going to Galveston.
Okay, cool. So you met them over there at Michael Lichter's show, yeah? And then you just struck up a conversation, and they were talking to you about the Lone Star Rally?
They didn't talk to me about the Lone Star Rally at all then. Of course, everybody's busy when you're at a rally, so they contacted me a little after that and asked if I wanted to be a part of it, and I said sure would.
Nice,
so
man.
Made plans and went down.
So tell me a little bit about what it was like being in that house. So you're saying that at the Lone Star Rally, they kept all you motorcycle builders, all you bike builders in the same house?
Most of us, yep. Yeah, it was really fun.
There must have been some good times.
Yeah, it was like I say, everybody was super nice, super cool. Just the knowledge of motorcycle knowledge in that under one roof was amazing.
Man, I can only imagine. When you were meeting all those guys, hanging out with them, did you already know who some of them were, or was it the first time that you met them?
I'd known some of them I met at Sturgis. I knew one or a couple guys there from Fuel Cleveland show. So I knew 3 or 4 of them, maybe 5 altogether, but I'd talked to some of the other ones, followed them on Instagram, and I knew their bikes and a little bit about them and stuff, but first time for some of them, yeah.
That must have been pretty cool. Pretty
Yeah,
cool.
really cool.
Well, we have had, and they were also showing at the Lone Star Rally. So far, we've had Xavier Muriel and Brian Butera.
Yep.
Were there any guys that you got pretty close with, familiar with, guys that you still talk to today from that show?
Yeah, keep in contact with the better part of them through messaging and stuff like that, back and forth. I talk to Rich Petoniak quite often. Brian Bateras occasionally. Yeah, we still talk.
That's cool, man. That's cool. You and Rich Petoniak, yeah. I had an opportunity to text with him the other day, and he mentioned that you guys might do some sort of a collaboration, or he might be doing some kind of work for you. And I think that's just awesome, man. Once you guys make those connections, and when he and I were talking, you probably see it the same. He said a lot of guys in the motorcycle building world, you'll have guys who are, their specialty is welding. Some guys, their specialty is the motor. Some guys, the specialty is, you know, bobbing stuff, cleaning it up. Some guys, it's the paint. What would you say is your kind of specialty? And I know I'm asking you to brag on yourself a little bit. Don't say that you don't have one, because I've seen your bikes and they're badass.
I like the fab work personally. That's what I like doing, the designing and fabricating parts. And that's, I don't know if I'd call it my specialty, but that's what I enjoy doing the most, giving them just a one-off part and as many parts as you can on each bike that stand out. You know, when you get to that caliber bikes, there's just, it comes down to all the details. So there's amazing bikes out there. I mean, it's, some of the bikes I saw last summer were mind blowing.
Yeah, man, I'll bet. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to open it up to Mick, Motorcycle Mick, because I think he'll be able to kind of dovetail off of this or ask you something related to your answer.
Sure.
Where in Michigan are you?
Traverse City.
Traverse City. Mick, have you ever been out there?
Oh yeah.
He's doing the mitten.
Well, I mean, welcome to Michigan. Like, if you don't get pointed where you're going, you're not really from the state. But no, man, Traverse City is some of the most beautiful riding. I mean, there's everything access up there. One of my favorite areas up there near Traverse City is the Tunnel of Trees. Yep. Sleeping Bear Dunes, like everything within that area is super cool. And every year, one of my favorite things to do is go and see the air show they have out in Traverse City, because it's a big blowout and there's a bunch of bikes and everything. It's super cool.
Yeah,
and,
man.
I mean, Michigan's got the best beer, so.
Well, I had an ex that lived in Traverse City one time. What did she do? She drove up there, and then I flew, and then we drove back, and it was pretty cool, man. So up there in Traverse City, Michigan area, and Mick, I'll open this up to you too. You guys have any major rallies, you know, other places where you'll be? You're already shaking your head no, Brandon?
No.
Nah.
There's not really any big rallies in Michigan. There's a few bigger bike shows. Muskegon Bike Times is pretty big every summer. You know, that's usually about 40,000 bikes. So that's a pretty big show for Michigan.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mostly travel out of state to most of the shows.
Right.
Yeah, I think the one thing we have going for us is like the Easy Rider.
Yep.
That's one of the things we have here. I know someone was trying to bring back Detroit Bike Week, but who knows about that? But yeah, we really don't have anything massive that goes on here. I know for me this year I've got Murder the Mitten, and it's a moto meetup with a bunch of bikes and everything over in Grand Rapids. But I mean, the term gentrified really applies to Traverse City, because I've been pulled over there for loud exhaust. Did you get
ticketed?
No, because the dude didn't have his little stupid microphone thing. But it's one of those things where it's you get two aspects of the city. You got the people that live kind of outside, and then you got the downtown area. And the downtown's beautiful, but also it's, I don't want to say more modern, but you stick out. If you're a biker, you kind of stick out. And I mean, at least my experiences I've had there.
Give me a split sec, guys. I got to plug something in. But while I do, I'm going to ask you, Brandon, and I'm going to be listening in here for the answer. What's your next event or your next build? Or I should ask, what are you working on right now?
Right now I'm doing 84 Evo. Be 4-speed, kick only, hardtail in it. Just building as much of it as I can. So kind of in the middle of that right now and pushing along like we talked. I've been talking about to Rich about doing the motor work, and it's been slow going, but it's going, getting there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that this, and you tell me if you've seen the same thing. Obviously, 2020 didn't shake out quite the way we had all expected it to. And I think people are trying to find, you know, projects, ways to stick in, ways to hang in there, I should say, and just kind of keep the fires burning. I know a lot of people who, you know, we've got some other moto vloggers, YouTubers, and other creative people here in the side chat that watch these. And I know a lot of folks were like, man, I'm not even supposed to take my bike out at this point, right? I think there in Michigan, you guys had some pretty heavy restrictions. Are those starting to lift up now? Are you seeing more people out there on the streets?
Yeah, they're lifting up quite a bit. Traverse City opened 2 weeks ago at 50%, the restaurants and bars and stuff like that. So I believe the lower Michigan, everything opened up yesterday or the day before, I believe. Most things are opened up now, but there's still quite a few restrictions. And a lot of lines, and it's changed how everybody's going about everything, that's for sure.
Yeah. You feeling the same, Mick?
They tried to pull the whole you can't ride your motorcycle thing, and a lot of people bought in. I mean, some people bought into it. A lot of people did. I mean, I was still out of my bikes. What are you going to try and stop everyone from riding their motorcycles when you got all these other people? But everything's like, as I'm in one of the more affected areas in Michigan. I live just north of Detroit, and in that whole area I've been in, I lived in one of the most infected counties. So everything was locked up really tight up until it somehow got released the other day. Like, yeah, I think he had it right. It's 2 days ago. So, but I still rode. I still got stuff. The biggest problem was when I needed parts for my motorcycle. Getting that was a challenge. And
well, you should have gone with Brandon over here. He's a fabricator, man.
Oh no, it's from the aspect of I need to get a gas cap or something for my bike, and they're like, oh, sorry, our dealership's closed, and if you need to do anything, you can schedule an appointment for 3 months away.
Yeah, man. I know it can be rough. Hey, Brandon, what is that bike? Tell me again back there that you're working on. It looks like it's pretty raw back there. I'm looking at it. Are you going to paint that thing?
Oh yeah. Yep. Still building it up, and then I'll tear it down for paint and chrome.
Yeah. Nice, man. Nice. Have you been to Sturgis, either showing or as a attendee?
Last year was our first trip to Sturgis. We'd never been before, and we went out with the 76 Shovelhead I built to Michael Lichter's motorcycle as art exhibit. So that was very amazing. Just
dang, that 76 shovel. And we're going to see it here in a minute. Like I say, I'm going to put up a few pictures of your bikes, and we're going to talk about those. And I imagine, you know, anybody who builds or creates something, oftentimes those creations, you know, they're like, they came from you, right? So they can be very near and dear to you. Some people almost see them as like their kids. It's hard to part with them, things like that. Have you parted with any of your bikes, any of your big builds? I mean, I'm sure there's, you know, people who are just, you know, like, I want this bike. How much, what's your price? Have you ever let any of them go? And how did that happen? And what did you feel like?
I have. I sold 2 choppers last fall to get this project started. So I had to let them go to keep going, you know. So, and it was hard. I liked them both, and but got to keep the ball rolling. So
That's it, man. You just got to keep that ball rolling. That, it always impresses me so much how much work goes into these bikes. And when I see them, I'm like, oh gosh, there's no way. But I talked to somebody recently who said they sold their bike, but the guy still lets them show it.
oh yeah.
Which is, is kind of cool. Does that happen often in the builder world?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
The shovel wasn't my bike. That was a client's bike, and we had an arrangement so that I could take it and show it and help promote myself. And it was a good deal. That bike got a lot of attention.
Yeah, I'll bet. Speaking of bikes, so that was a 76 shovel. Your very first bike, the first one that you built. What was that one? Who was it for? And how did that one work out?
First bike I built was, I think it was about 10 or 11 years ago. It was a 72 Triumph TR6. And I chopped it in half and hardtailed it, and it was pretty basic, pretty crude, but a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun riding that bike. And then I kept getting bikes and modifying them, and it was probably, I'd say about 2016, 2015 maybe, I built another Triumph, and that one I just kept upping my game with every build, and I learned better at doing everything, and so that's kind of where it started with a 72 Triumph.
Man, oh man. And you mentioned earlier when we talked last week that you built a bike for your dad, right?
Yes. Yep.
Which one was that? Was that the Triumph?
67 Bonneville, different Triumph. Yep.
Oh, 67 Bonneville, man. So I'm writing down some of the names of these bikes. We started in 1976, then we went to 72. Now we're in 1967. Anything older than that?
No.
Okay, cool. Does he still have the bike?
Yes, he does. Yep.
Dang, dude, I bet that's a nice looking bike. Very cool. Very cool. All right, so let me we're already 20 minutes in today. Let me go through some of the chat, get to a couple of the questions, see who else was out here. Just want to throw out a few more names out here, guys, as we usually do. We've got Jinja Ninja Man, very cool, all the way from San Marcos, Texas. That's about an hour up the road. We've got Blacktop Devil in the house, another great YouTube creator out here, does a heck of a lot of writing. We've got Brandy Russ, Nick Hildebrand. I'm looking for any questions anybody has for Brandon out here. I think I saw one or two. Okay, so Larry Blevins asked, well, here's a couple of questions, actually. Let me backtrack. Let me get with Nick Hildebrand, and then I'll ask Larry's. Nick says, what is Brandon's favorite lift?
Favorite lift?
Yeah.
Or like a motorcycle lift?
I guess so.
All I've ever had was the cheap Harbor Freight lifts.
No kidding. All right. Hey, there's hope for us all.
Just don't buy the jack stands.
Right.
Is that right? All right. I'll keep that in mind. We've got Mr. Larry Blevins says, will Brandon be at Born Free in September?
I will not.
Unfortunately not. All right, cool. Mr. Rich Petoniak in the house. Look at that. Petoniak's Custom Cycles says, good evening to all. Rich, it's great to have you in here. I'm going to throw up the phone number. Maybe you can buzz in if you want. We've got Grinding Gears Moto. Who else did we have? Quite a few out here, and I know I'm going to miss a lot of names. iRocker C says, hell, I'm with Blacktop Devil. Okay, cool. We got a lot of folks out here. Lugnuts Guapo. He says 100% of those Harbor Freights are good for the money. Okay, 100%. Lugnuts, if I get one and my bike falls, man, I'm going to come find you up there in Houston.
I had mine on a Harbor Freight jack last weekend, and I will say it worked flawlessly. There was nothing to worry about. Like it was up 3 feet in the air. I loved it.
Might not be bad. How much do those go for?
Like $150.
That ain't bad. I've got another question here. They say, what's the average? Well, okay, so that's a great one. Brandon, if you were going to put a dollar amount to your bikes, what would you say is like the average purchase price for one of your bikes? And I know they can run the gamut, but what would you say if you had to put an average to them? Now, I want to back that up. Not just the bike, not just the materials, not just the parts, not just the performance, but the time that you put into it, if you were to add all of that up,
Yeah, the time is
it's the labor, man. Because like I had to put my bike in the shop last week just to get a belt, and it's the labor that takes the longest, man. What would you say? Would you put it in the, you know, 6-figure range? I mean, you think about all that time.
Yeah, you don't that kind of a bike, you don't get all your money back. You don't get your labor back out of those, you know. I mean, you get to use it to travel around and go to the shows and promote yourself and stuff like that. So you get a lot back out of it that way, but you're not gonna.
Yeah.
Personally, I haven't had the experience where there's tons of money to be made building custom motorcycles. Personally, so.
Yeah. Well, and that's how it is with art a lot of times, isn't it? I mean, just looking at one of those bikes is going to move. I mean, hell, it moved me to walk up to you at Lone Star and be like, hey, man, I like your bike. Can we talk? And you're cool enough to even be on that YouTube video from the Lone Star rally. It was freaking awesome, man. And yeah, dude. So when you were with those guys, I'm sure they shared a lot of stories. I'm sure there were some things that happened in that house that probably should not be repeated. But did everybody, you know, kind of stay pretty close to their P's and Q's, or did you guys get pretty loose out there, or how was it?
It was really laid back. I mean, everybody, it seemed like after the first day, it seemed like everybody was just like old friends. I mean, it was a real cool atmosphere. Like I said, everybody's really, really friendly, super knowledgeable. Still can reach out to any of those guys at any time if I have a question. I mean, that was a just great part of it. So I don't know everything about this. I'm kind of new at it, so I have questions and reach out to people that I think might have the answers and just keep learning.
Absolutely, man. I hear you. I hear you. All right. So we're going to flash up a couple of pictures of the bikes, and I'd love for you to talk to the group a little bit about, you know, the modifications you've done, what went into it, things like that. So give me just a sec.
Sure.
And after we do that, I actually have a question, but I don't want to jump ahead. I don't want to jump ahead of you.
No, go ahead. I'll set this up and you go ahead, bud.
So one of the biggest things I've looked at and talking to my buddy built bikes, and he still can build bikes, is the aspect of when you first built your first motorcycle, when you got into that feeling, what made you drawn to the art of it versus the performance aspect? Because I mean, I know like Dee said, that like there's different aspects of it. There's people that do performance stuff. There's people that do all these others. But like, what the bikes you build and the way they look is an art. So what drew you to doing the art side of it versus the speed side of it, I guess, for motorcycles?
I've always liked to customize things, and I like the style of things. I get into performance too, but I like the customized part better. That's just, I've always been that way with cars, BMXs, motorcycles. Never really a big race guy, so I just between I think magazines, seeing what other people were doing, and going to some shows and seeing hand-built choppers riding up and down the road and stuff. I mean, that just hooked me right there. I knew I wanted one, and I just started building them.
I mean, I can only imagine the stress you go through, because I've been doing, you know, adding parts to my motorcycles, and it was, I mean, just getting the wheels for my motorcycle was a stress. You know, and every one of your bikes that you build, like you can look at your motorcycles and see that every aspect has been inspected and approved by your mind. That this is what it is. Like you can see, like, because just by looking at a bike as beautiful as those, I can see you probably went back at least 30 times to question if it was the right decision or not, just to make it perfect, you know, perfect in your mind. Someone else looks at it and is like, oh, it's beautiful. But I'm sure there's points where you can still try to pick out flaws in your motorcycles.
Yeah, always. Once they're done, you always can look at them and say, I could have did this different, should have did that different, but you got that or whatever. But yeah, it takes a lot of thinking and a lot of time to plan where you want everything to keep them clean and simple and look good all at the same time. It's the combination that is best for choppers. Everything's exposed, so you really have to address everything when you're doing it.
Yeah, somebody out here in the chat, Tim Russ, he says hashtag details. So I guess a lot of it is about those details. And Brandon, I have put up a picture of that bike that to me was an absolute showstopper, and I've got it on this other screen. So if you can see my picture, oh, there's Miss Keene. If you can see the picture over here, you'll see that amazing bike. I mean, you talk about, Tim Russ said hashtag details. You got everything in here from, the brass accents, the paint itself. I don't know if anybody's looking at this on a bigger screen, but if you really look at the details in this paint, it's incredible. Brandon, what is the name of this bike? When did you start it? And, what was the evolution of this bike?
Started it, I guess to be about a year ago, or we were finishing up about a year ago with it. So a year and a half ago, got started on it. Josh Pratt is my friend, and he asked me if I wanted to build him a bike. So he likes a lot of bling and shiny things. So we went with a lot of chrome, and it,
yeah, man, it is incredible. How long did you say? How long did it take you to build?
I built that one in about 6 or 7 months, nights and weekends while I was working full time.
Yeah, and it's got a Springer front. Beautiful bike.
That's a girder front end that I built.
Oh, the girder. That's right. That's right. And you built that.
Yep.
Man, I'll tell you what. So this is the one that I saw out there at the Lone Star Rally, I believe. There was something special about the Lone Star Rally and this particular show, this bike show. You guys had to actually ride the bikes.
Yeah.
That's kind of unique.
79, 80 miles, I think we rode. Yeah, it was fun. It definitely a huge experience for last year. I mean, to ride it that far is one thing, that's all possible and everything, but to rip up and down the roads in Galveston with 12 other bikes that are of all the same caliber, just beautiful show bikes. I mean, that was amazing.
I sure hope that show goes off this year, because it's one of the biggest, closest ones to me. It's only 4 hours away. And, I've only been there twice, loved it. The first time I went, I was really surprised though and I should have known, you're right there on the Gulf, but good Lord, man, the wind will knock you right off your bike in some spots.
Yeah, the wind was terrible last year. The first 2 days we were there, the house we were in was up on stilts, and it was swaying about 6 inches probably.
Man, oh man. Yeah, that's rough.
It was rocking you to sleep that night.
Now, do you guys get any kind of wind like that up there in Michigan? I mean, I know you get a lot of snow and stuff like that. You get wind like that as well?
Not quite like that. We get some high winds once in a while, but yeah, we do get a lot of snow.
I am going to look at a couple of other details on this particular bike, and then we're going to move on to another one. Let me see. Oh, there's Miss Keene in the back on that one. Very cool. Let's see here. Brandon, is this a part of that bike as well?
No, that's the one I'm working on right now.
Okay, cool. Just backtrack here.
So when you're picking your bikes you're building, do you pick them because I know the one thing that you can't change on it, I guess you can, but when you pick the motor for it, is that something you pick with in mind? Looking at this bike right here, the motor is, every aspect of it is just as beautiful as the rest of the bike. And do you pick the motor with the frame, or do you just pick the motor after you pick a frame?
Usually start with some type of a donor bike, whatever motor that I want. I usually start with a complete bike, tear it down, and modify it from there. So I mean, that's kind of how I go. As far as design, I usually most of the bikes I've built, I pick my wheels first and then build from there.
Right on.
That works for me.
Very cool. Mick, if I may, let me get to a couple of these comments here. iRocker C says, which bike did you build which bike are you most proud of? And what made that bike better than all the others? Wow, good question.
Probably the purple Sportster that I built. I won the Smokeout down in North Carolina with that bike. That was a big accomplishment for me at the time. It was got some recognition from Backstreet Chopper magazine. The bike got featured in their magazine, and so that was a big deal for me.
Brandon, is that the one with the purple flame tank?
No,
or the bandana?
The bandana with the purple frame.
Yes. Let me go ahead and pop that one up for people to check this out. I mean, look at this, man. This bike is incredible. Brandon, you were telling me something special about the tank and that bandana design. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, that is cloth bandana on a piece of metal that's removable, so you can take it in and out of that kind of a tank knee guard. So you can take it out, change the bandana if you want to. And the bandana goes up the top of the back of the fender too, in between the fender struts.
Man, what a bike. What a bike. And what engine do you have on that one?
That's a 99 Sportster 1200.
Okay, cool. I know we've got a lot of Sportster riders out here in the side chat. You guys, if you've got a Sportster, just kind of put that in here in the side chat so we can see who all's out there. You know, I had a Sportster. My first bike was a 1997 1200 Sportster Sport. Loved that bike. But, you know, a lot of Sportsters from other people in the motorcycle world, not so much in the builder world, because builders actually know what this bike is. But the Sportster sometimes takes a little grief from other people. And I think those are guys who, you know, typically are hanging out at the Harley Davidson dealership every weekend, getting their free coffee, going on their little hog ride and whatnot. And they do tend to put down the Sportster from time to time. Brandon, when it comes to that kind of, I call that kind of bike snobbery. When it comes to that in the bike building world, is there any type of hierarchy in the bikes? And here's why I ask. You mentioned the Smokeout, right? And at the Smokeout, I know they're all different types of bikes. People are bringing in wrap bikes. They're bringing in stuff that, you know, or they're riding it in. It's a hodgepodge between a Kawasaki, a Yamaha, and a Harley all thrown up into one. Do you see any of that in the bike builder world? Is there a specific engine or frame that more people gravitate toward?
I guess I don't see that. I mean, you get to these bike shows and stuff, and there's bikes of all makes, all engines, years. I mean, you just see it all when you get into those big crowds and stuff. So I don't personally see that happening. I do see what you're saying about the Sportster. They knock the Sportsters. There's quite a few people that do, but I don't have any problem with that Sportster. You know, that was one of the most fun bikes that I've ever owned to ride, that purple bike right there.
Oh man, yeah, that looks incredible. Here's another question for you, or first a comment and then a question. Someone says, modifying a bike ain't the same feeling as building a bike. Building a bike is art, not science. Very cool. That's from Patrick Hattrick. We've got another question out here. Let me just get to it. This is from Bandera HDAG. They say, Brandon, what is the toughest challenge you had to overcome in your custom build process? And it could be maybe it's not just like I had to put this type of motor into something where it didn't fit, but maybe it's also, you know, the actual journey that you've been through as a motorcycle builder.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of been a long road. It's been a learning curve. Just learning to work with metal and weld metal, and so it's definitely, I would say that's it. You know, because I could visualize what I wanted a motorcycle to look like when I built my first bike I knew what I wanted it to look like, but I wasn't capable of doing it at the time. So I did what I could do and wrote it. And the next one I tried to do more. And so I guess that's been probably my biggest obstacle. It's taken time to perfect all the skills, and I'm still working on it.
Yeah, I mean, that learning curve, I guess it never ends. I mean, there's so much. And when you're talking about an art form that bike building is, you know, like Patrick Hattrick so eloquently said a minute ago, it's not a science, right? Where you know it and it's done. Art forms change, different things come into fashion. They come in and out of fashion. For a while it was, and in some areas still, that huge front tire, those type of baggers. This one that we're showing here, it looks like the front tire is actually smaller than the back tire. Other than talking to, you know, other bike builders, how do you get your inspiration? Do you look at, you know, are you looking at certain magazines, books? I mean, how does that work out? How do you get your ideas for these creations?
I do look a lot of magazines, Instagram accounts, follow as much as I can with about all motorcycles, what's going on and stuff, and see what other people are doing. But when it comes down to building a custom motorcycle, I try to see what other people are doing and try to put my spin on it. I mean, there's only so many parts on a bike, and you don't want to. It's not about copying somebody else. It's about being different than somebody else. So that really takes the time, is to think of making it functional and good looking at the same time. So I would say that's probably it.
Very cool. Very cool. So we're checking out a bike right now up here. I threw up on the screen. This is the, which bike do we have? You say this project is for 81 Lowrider. We'll be seeing daylight real soon. Talk to us about that build. Where are you in that build? Are you done with it? You still got more to do?
That build I've been riding, and it's just got a couple more things, and it's pretty much done. Yeah, it's rideable. Been putting some miles on it, shaking it down. That's for a friend of mine here. He's about a half hour from here, probably, Jason Joblin. I met him last summer when I was riding the 76 shovel, and he came up to me and he liked the bike. He says, I got a Shovelhead. You want to do some work on it? And I said, sure would. So I took it apart and we hardtailed it, and you know, that bike I did the sissy bar, the mid controls. I did like the top motor mount on it. Did a battery. Did the whole new wiring harness on it. So yeah, that one's really fun to ride.
Man, oh man. Okay, so this one is a shovel. I believe the other one that we looked at was a knuckle. Is that right?
No.
No. So the first one we looked at, what engine was that? The red one. Yeah.
That was a Shovelhead also.
That one's a shovel also. Okay, cool. Have you worked on knuckles as well? Do you prefer shovels one over the other, panheads? I mean, what's your preferred, and why would you go to that engine?
I don't have a big preference. I like the looks of the shovels. I think that's a really nice looking motor. I'm not a real big engine guy, so that's not really my specialty at all. Like,
yeah, gotcha. Well, I've got a question for you. Do you think that it would ever be possible for Harley Davidson to resurrect one of these engines, be it the shovel, the knucklehead, the panhead? I mean, you know, when it comes to making them, you know, fuel efficient and meeting standards and things like that, can that be done?
I don't know the answer to that question.
It's a debate I've been having with some folks. So we'll see. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think we're going to have to dig a little bit deeper into that one to get some good answers. All right. So let me just go back here into the chat, guys. We're about 15 minutes from our closing time. So I just want to make sure that everybody gets their questions answered. And I'm going to pass it over to Mick here in just a minute. Let me just go through. iRocker C once again in here. We have Logan Urchik. Logan, I haven't seen you in here. Thanks for joining up. Grinding Gears Moto says these bikes are amazing. Absolutely, man. Hey, like I say, I want to take a second just to say, if you haven't been on Brandon Keene's Instagram, Brandon, what is it? Is it B Keene Built, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and put that here in the chat. Go on over to Instagram and follow him, man. If you want to see these bikes, he's got a great page over there. Brandon, how else can people get a hold of you? Where can we see your work as well? Any other social media sites?
Yeah, I got Facebook, same name, B Keene Built.
All right, cool. So Facebook, B Keene Built. Mick, you got anything else for Brandon?
Two things.
Yep.
Do you make your own handlebars?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm gonna keep that in mind because but no, I mean, so I got like a 13 Sportster, which I've been kind of looking at doing some stuff to, because now that my Heritage is basically my primary motorcycle. If someone's looking to customize their Sportster, what's the, like, even just like general like things to make it look nicer, what's the first parts you would actually clean up on the bike, you know, something they might not need that makes it look better and more presentable? Like, you know, it's more, makes it more eye-catching.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's handlebars or pipes. Give you some more style with your bike and stuff, and try to clean them up as much as you can, as far as taking things off that you don't need, you know. And I mean, it just depends on how far you want to go. If you want to ride around doing hand signals with not a bunch of blinkers all over your bike, and that's what I prefer to do. But so the more you can take off them, the cleaner they're going to get, and then your eye goes to the other things that you customize, like your bars and your pipes, and paint's always a big customization and an expensive one. But
Another question I have to go along with that is, to all those people out there doing the huge tank lifts on their Sportsters, as a builder that's building art, what is your view on like the tank lift like that? You know, just someone that's like, oh, I just want to lift the tank.
Where they just lift the front of them.
I don't know what it is. It lifts the whole tank or something.
Lift the front to give it more of a Frisco style look, kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
I've seen that.
it seems to be a common modification people are doing to their Sportsters lately, where it's just, I think it kind of looks ridiculous on newer Sportsters, you know, because it doesn't have the frame to do it. But
yeah, agreed. You know, the lines of the bike were kind of designed for the way the tank sat on it, and now
yeah,
they disrupted that flow.
no, I besides that, I mean, I every time I've seen, like, because I've actually seen, like, we talked about this last week, and it was looking at your bikes when they were at Fowlerville, you know, at the Easy Rider, and just seeing if you have a bike that, and I found out like last week that you had more of them there, that all those bikes were yours. But I mean, dude, it's so eye-catching. Like, literally, you look at that bike and you're just walking down the line and you have to walk back and forth just to notice all the little details. Now, when you get people come up and asking you about that, like, what's your first response to someone when they're like, hey man, I love the bikes, like, how did you do this? Like, do you walk through and explain the whole process to them, or do you just, like, you know, give them the knowledge to be able to go out and like do the research and like get their own style?
Oh, I'll tell anybody how I did it. You know, I that's the greatest part about these bikes, is people want to come and look at them and want to talk about them. You know, I'll talk about them all day long.
I literally, I've had very few bikes, and especially Sportsters. Like Dee said, they get a lot of crap on everywhere, but most of the times they will outrun every bagger I've seen, just because they don't have all the extra weight. They're fun to throw around. And what I'm going with this is to all those people that are getting into riding and they want to have that bike they can customize. Like, what would be the best Sportster for them to pick up to be able to have the best chance to be able to customize every aspect of it?
Well, there's so many parts, aftermarket parts for the Sportsters. I mean, I mostly know about the '03 and older Harleys. That's the ones, or Sportsters specifically, that I've worked on. So I don't know too much about the new ones. Almost, I guess all of the bikes that I mess with are carbureted and it's pre-fuel injection, and I like that end of it. For building a chopper or a custom motorcycle, you don't have the nearly as much of a wiring harness. The carburetor is more chopper friendly, I believe, and I mean, it might not be for somebody, but it's my opinion.
No, and
Right on.
I hate the fat choppers. The way you do it is just art, man.
Thank
Like,
you.
I hate the huge choppers. You see the dude riding around with cargo shorts on and all that kind of stuff, and looking like they need to be on a Hayabusa. And it's just, I mean, it's like a West Coast chopper, a West Coast customs chopper versus what you do, which is the art where it's so clean that you can't help but just be in awe by it. It's just such a beautiful, like, I'm speechless right now because, like, just thinking about him and seeing him in real life, it takes your, like, it's weird to say, but it takes your breath away because you don't think that this is what a bike can be. And I think it's so unique how in your mind, like, you can see a bike that's just, you know, a standard motorcycle, and then, like, see in your mind how that can turn into what it is. It's got to be a process.
Yeah, it is, and like you said, it's especially here in Michigan to stumble across custom built bikes is exciting for people that ride motorcycles. There's not big rallies here, and there's not a huge motorcycle chopper culture for sure. I mean, there's a lot of bikers in Michigan, but there's a lot of riders, baggers, and you name it. There's just not a big chopper scene. So when you, like at Fowlerville, you get to a custom bike show and you get to see a lot of different things that people are doing. So that's a cool part of it too. Talking to those people, see what they're doing, look at what they did and see how they did it. And so that's really cool.
For sure, man. Hey, sorry, mate. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Michigan's got the best bike builders, and the best beer.
Nice.
I saw a comment up here from Rich Petoniak's Custom Cycles. He says Sportsters have such a versatile platform to build on: choppers, bobbers, flat track, racers, cafe racers. Yeah, so definitely versatile. We had another comment out here from Blacktop Devil. He says, go ahead and just get rid of the shocks, I guess, to kind of bob them up. Grinding Gears Moto says, thanks, Brandon, for all you do for the MC culture.
Oh,
I guess he's talking about the motorcycle culture, unless he is talking about the motorcycle club culture. You work within the club culture at all, Brandon?
No, I don't.
Okay, cool. So he's probably just talking about the motorcycle culture. And I think what he really means is looking at bikes like this really opens up our eyes, and it kind of makes guys like me, whose bikes are probably 80 to 85% stock, feel like, oh geez, kind of out of my league. But yeah, you never know. Maybe I just need to start taking stuff off. I'll start with a friggin' brakes. We have Blacktop Devil out here. He says pre-rubber mount for sure. Nick Hildebrand, opinion of the big wheel scoots. So what's your opinion, Brandon, of the big wheelers?
The big wheel daggers?
Yeah, I guess we kind of talked a little bit about them earlier, that in certain scenes they're a big deal. They tend to come and go, I think. But what do you think about them?
I don't have that an opinion either way on them. I can appreciate the work that goes into them and all the paint jobs they put on them. They've come a long ways for sure. Everybody knows that, but definitely I can appreciate all the work that goes into them. I've never rode one. I'd like to see how it is, but
Yeah.
because you always hear some people say they don't handle like they should, and the guys that have them say they handle just fine. So I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things you just kind of get used to. If it's your bike, you love it, and there's all different opinions on it. I mean, for me personally, for example, I like a bike that doesn't have a whole lot of extra stuff. I don't have a lot of tech on my bike. Who knows? That could change at some point if I decide to go in that direction. But some people, they need to have the GPS, and they got to have the hand warmers, and they got to have everything from A to Z. It's just it's so personalized. Hey, I got one person who's actually calling in, so give me just a sec. We're gonna get a question in here.
I rode one. Never do it again.
You rode one and you never will get. What's happening? You are on the line, buddy. Who is this?
Rich Petoniak.
Oh, Rich Petoniak himself calling in. What's going on, dude?
What's up, guys?
Things are good.
How's it going, man?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
What are you up to, Rich? What are you doing tonight, man, on this beautiful Thursday evening?
Working on a shovelhead.
You're doing the same thing when I talked to you last Thursday evening. No, I'm kidding.
I got 4 of them here in my shop, and I'm watching your show on the YouTube on my big TV. So I figured I'd call in and say what's up to my brother Brandon and say hi to everybody.
That's so cool, man. That is so cool. Rich, like I said, he'll be on later on this month. Appreciate you getting ready to do that. Let me just change your name on here so we've got it in case anybody's wanting to look you up. Whoa.
How's it going, Brandon?
Doing good, buddy.
That bike looks pretty badass behind you there, coming along pretty awesome.
Hey, thanks. It's getting there.
Yeah, Brandon builds some killer bikes, man. It was great to meet all these guys in Texas. It was that was a great, for sure, a great time, huh, Brandon?
For sure.
Man, so what did you guys do at night? I mean, were you stuck in the house all night, or did you end up busting out? Did some people stay in? Some people took off? What was the deal?
Yeah, some people stayed in, some people went out. We had a good time, the conversations that we had just hanging out the house, like Brandon was saying, it was pretty chill, man. It wasn't like you think like a house with 14 bike builders in it would be like some big crazy thing, but it was just a lot of gearhead talk, it was a great time. It was great to meet Brandon and his wife Amy. They were super cool, laid back. Everybody was totally cool, and you don't know what to expect when you get to something like that, especially when you got 14, everybody's so super talented from all over the country, and there was no egos, no nothing. Everybody was just totally, like Brandon said, everybody was just chill. Everybody was just totally cool, just looking at each other as what everybody built and talking shop. It was awesome. I made friends out of it, and that's what this is all about, making friends with people from all around the country, especially people that have, like interest in yourself of, building bikes and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, for sure. But I know there's some Animal House stories, unless I just got it built up in my mind. 14 motorcycle builders, man. You guys had I'm sure there's some things people aren't talking about. Rich, we're going to squeeze you.
No, it was cool. It was chill because, some of the guys had their wives and girlfriends there. So there was no wild stripper nights or nothing like that.
All right. I'll take your word for it, man. But if there's another Lone Star rally this year, I might find my way to that house and just kind of are these guys seriously just over there playing dominoes? All right. We'll see, man. Yeah. Have you heard any word on the Lone Star rally going on this year?
I haven't heard anything yet because I think honestly everybody just wants to I don't know. Everybody's waiting. Everything's been canceled. Gettysburg Bike Week that was scheduled in July, that just got canceled this week. So I mean, as far as I know, it sounds like Sturgis is still going to happen. So I'm not sure. Laconia was pushed from June back to August 22nd, which is after Sturgis. So hopefully that's going to happen. But I guess you don't know what's going to happen if there's a spike in the the amount of COVID positive tests and stuff like that, the mayor of towns and things like that, if they could at any time, I suppose, just say, you know what, we're not issuing any vendor permits, and if they want, they can do this at any time. Hopefully, everybody wants everything to get back to normal as soon as possible. The Lone Star Rally, that's quite a ways away. That's November, so hopefully, I'm sure. Hopefully that'll go on. I just want to see everybody again and hang out. Me and Brandon, we've been talking. We talked a lot since we met there, and we became good friends out of it.
For sure.
That is so awesome, man. That is so awesome. I see a comment out here from somebody named Amy Keene. She says, ask Brandon about how he got into the Sturgis motorcycle as art show. And then later she says, I got stories. What is she talking about?
Michael Lichter show is an invitation only show, and for what unknown reason this year he threw up on the internet a wild card spot, and he was taking bike submissions. So we sent some pictures. I heard that a few thousand bikes were submitted in 3 or 4 days, and then he picked 13 that he thought would go in his show well, and then he put it up to a poll voting system. So I ended up winning in by votes.
Wow, no kidding. And what bike was that one?
That was the red 76 shovel.
Yeah, what a bike, man. What a bike. So tell me again, in case anybody wants to look up these bikes, that red 76 shovel, what did you call it?
Showtime.
Showtime. All right. Did you name the 72 Triumph?
No, I haven't.
What about the 67 Bonneville?
Nope.
I doubt anybody would be able to find that one anyway. Your pop's probably out there tearing up the streets on that one.
Right.
Anyhow.
Right.
Very. Did you grow up riding with your dad? At what age did you ride with him?
I'm not sure. Well, I started riding when I was young, dirt bikes and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what age, but I was pretty young. And street bikes, no, I didn't ride for quite a few years. Once I was an adult. Once I did get a Harley, it wasn't long after that my dad got one, and we've done a fair amount of riding together. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. That's really cool. All right, cool. Well, look, we're coming up on 9 o'clock. I feel like this hour once again went by pretty quick. I mean, you think about how long, 59 minutes, how fast it goes when you get into some of these stories. And I feel like we could, have another chat at some point down the road. I hope you're open to that. I was talking, I think I said to you, Brandon, at some point, I'd like to have a few of the builders that have been on the show all come together and maybe just kind of trade off on stories, do a round robin in that way. But yeah, would that be cool?
That'd be great.
Nice, man. Nice. The motorcycle.
I just wanted to call in and say hi to Brandon. So you guys have a good night.
Rich, thank you for calling in, dude. I always enjoy talking to you, man. Thank you.
I just wanted to say hi to Brandon and say hi to you guys, and that's all. Continue on with Brandon. Good night, y'all. I'll keep watching. I'll keep watching. See you guys.
See ya.
Right on, man. Thanks, Rich.
Bye.
Cool. All right. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap it up. I just wanted to say once again, big thank you to the motorcycle Mick. I also want to thank Lugnuts Guapo, who was on last time with us. He hung in there with us through the little tech issues that we had. And I know he was wanting to join tonight, and I probably just wasn't fast enough getting him in on here, but I appreciate you always being there for us. Brandon, once again, Brandon Keene, you guys go check him out on Instagram. I just kind of touched on a few of the amazing bikes and the builds that he's got, but keep an eye on Brandon. You're going to see him in more spots as time goes by, obviously. For him to have displayed at the Smokeout, for him to have displayed, been around the Michael Lichter show and, out in Sturgis, everything else, man. It really is an honor to have you on the show today, Brandon. I appreciate you, man.
My pleasure. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Very cool. All right, everybody. I want to thank everyone who was in the chat. I want to thank everybody, Rich, by the way, for calling in. And as always, guys, I hope everybody's safe out there. Be cool, be kind, and we will see you on the next. Take it easy, guys. Peace out.